Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. She said it like it was nothing. The fork slipped from Holden's fingers and clanged against the plate. Across the table, Lila kept chewing her mac and cheese like nothing happened. "Say that again," he asked, voice steady, too steady. Lila blinked, shrugged. "Mom kisses Uncle Trent when you're gone. Like, a lot." Renee froze mid-sip, glass of wine tilted. "Lila, what the hell are you talking about?" Lila looked confused. "You told me not to tell Dad, remember? But I thought." "Go to your room," Renee snapped, voice suddenly sharp. Now, the girl stood slowly, unsure if she'd done something wrong. She glanced at Holden, but he didn't look at her. He hadn't blinked in 20 seconds. She left the room. Holden finally turned his eyes on Renee. "Trent." Renee forced a chuckle. "She's 13, Holden. She's always making up weird stuff." He didn't speak. Didn't need to. That silence, the kind he used on raids before breaching a door, dropped between them like a weight. The kind that made people confess without being asked. "Look," she said, softening her tone. "He's not even your real cousin. You know that. We've always been close." Lila probably saw something out of context. Still nothing. Holden just stood up, walked to the sink, rinsed off his plate, and set it gently on the rack. "I'm going for a run," he said. Calm. Measured. "It's 9:30 at night." He looked over his shoulder. "I've trained in deserts. I think I can manage the neighborhood." Then he left, and as the door clicked shut behind him, Renee's smile finally cracked. Inside his head, Holden repeated her name and Trent's like coordinates. It wasn't the betrayal that made his hands ball into fists as he jogged into the dark. It was the plan forming, a plan that would burn everything down without him ever raising his voice. And he knew one thing for sure. She thought she could get away with this. But she just told the wrong man the truth. "Hey, just want to speak from the heart for a second. I've been working really hard on both my channels, writing, editing, everything by myself. And trust me, I'm not a professional. I'm learning as I go. Every story I write, every topic I cover, it all comes from the heart. I'm trying to bring you stories that you might enjoy. But still, there are people who leave hate comments, negative feedback, and that hurts sometimes. I know not every story is for everyone. We all have different tastes. But for those of you who support me, show love, and subscribe, your kindness is what keeps me motivated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if you're new here, or if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider clicking that button. It really helps me stay inspired and bring you even better, more emotional stories. I've also started a new channel called Betrayal Stories Lab, where I share deeper, more intense stories with powerful endings. The link is in the description, just one click. It would truly mean the world to me. Thanks again for being here. Your support means everything. At 0420 hours the next morning, Holden was already dressed in black jeans and a zip-up hoodie, standing in front of Renee's vanity. Her phone lay charging beside her perfume. Passcode, still his birthday. She was too confident or too careless. Or both. He copied every photo, text thread, and call log onto a spare flash drive, sliding it into a Velcro compartment sewn inside his boot. The message thread with Trent wasn't labeled under his name. It was Sparrow Dove. Cute. The texts weren't. "You're right. He's checked out. Has been for years. He'll probably think he's going crazy soon. I've started casually suggesting therapy. Once the papers are ready, we hit him with it all at once. Custody, finances, everything. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a setup. Gaslight. Legal ambush. Total wipeout." By 05:30, Holden was at a quiet diner across town, phone in hand, voice calm. "Detective Greaves. Ex-SEAL, name's Holden McKinney. We met back in 21 during that embezzlement sting. Need your help with something quiet. You calling this an officially? Not yet. Just looking for options." "What kind of options?" "Digital forensics. Legal trail tracing. Maybe surveillance. All off record." Pause. "Somebody mess with you, McKinney?" Holden looked out the window, fingers tapping the coffee cup. Not just me, he said. They're using my daughter. By sunrise, he had burner phones, VPN access, and a fresh trail laid. By noon, Renee texted him, "Sorry about last night. Can we talk later?" He didn't reply. He was busy creating a spreadsheet. Column 1, names. Column 2, roles. Column 3, weak points. By midnight, it had 15 entries. He named the file Fire Plan. 3 days later, Holden took a drive to a rundown ranch house 2 counties over. Renee's sister, Sierra, answered the door in flannel and tired eyes. "Told you not to call me unless she was dead," she said. "I didn't," Holden replied. "I'm here in person." She let him in. Sierra lit a cigarette. "So, she finally messed with you too?" Holden sat across from her. No small talk. "How long's it been going on?" She raised a brow. "With Trent?" His eyes didn't flinch. Just a nod. "Shit," Sierra whispered. "Well, then I'd say since before you even married her. He was never just a family friend. She's been sleeping with him on and off for years." "You sure?" She exhaled smoke like poison. "They hooked up the week before your wedding. She cried to me about it. Said she was confused. I told her to call it off. She didn't." Holden's jaw ticked. "They ever talk about money?" he asked. Sierra blinked. "What do you mean? Life insurance? Pensions? Inheritance? Anything?" Her silence said enough. She flicked the ash into an empty soda can. "They're dangerous, Holden. Not in the obvious way. In the smile as they stab you way." Holden stood. "Thanks." As he reached the door, Sierra called out, "She always hated how much Lila loved you, you know." He stopped. "What?" "She's jealous of the bond. Said you stole her role as a mother." "You didn't. But she'll use Lila against you any way she can." Holden drove back with one thought cycling. She wasn't trying to leave him. She was trying to destroy him. And she was about to find out what real strategy looks like. Holden waited in his parked truck 2 blocks from the Cedar Pines Inn, a place too cheap for tourists, too discreet for business travel. That meant one thing: affairs. At 4:13 p.m., Renee's SUV turned into the lot. She didn't see him. She never even looked. Trent's pickup arrived 2 minutes later. They entered room 14. He didn't follow. He just waited. After an hour, he walked the perimeter, hoodie up, head down. Room 14's bathroom light glowed dimly behind the half-drawn curtain. Muffled laughter. One female, one male. He didn't need to hear what they were saying. He just needed the trash. That night, Holden returned with gloves and a small toolkit. Popped the lock on the dumpster out back. Rummaged for anything. Found a crumpled paper bag with a discarded hotel keycard, 2 coffee cups, a receipt with Renee's signature, and an empty condom wrapper. He stared at the keycard a long time. Not because of what it proved. He already knew. It was what it unlocked. Leverage. Back home, Renee kissed him on the cheek. "Late run again?" Holden nodded. "Traffic." She smelled like perfume she never wore around him anymore. He noticed. Later that night, as she slept, Holden swept her car. Under the passenger seat, he found a lipstick that wasn't her usual shade. In the glove box, a folded receipt from a boutique motel, paid in cash. But what hit hardest was in the trunk. A child's drawing. Lila's, by the handwriting. Stick figures, Mom, Dad, and a third man labeled Uncle T. They were all holding hands. Holden sat on the garage floor, staring at it. His hand trembled once. Just once. Then it stopped. Because now, he knew exactly how to start taking them apart. The next morning, Holden woke before dawn. He watched Renee sleep, the subtle twitch in her eye, the tiny crease between her brows that deepened when she dreamed. It used to be familiar. Now it looked like camouflage. He rose, opened a long-forgotten storage box in the basement, and pulled out their wedding DVD, slipped it into an old player. Static. Then laughter. Renee's voice. Younger, higher, innocent. He watched the vows. Her smile. The way she touched Trent's arm when he gave the best man speech. Too casually. Too often. No one else would have noticed. But Holden noticed everything now. He rewound. Froze on one frame, her fingers brushing Trent's wrist, and the look between them that wasn't friendly. He fast-forwarded to the reception. There it was again. Another touch. Another glance. She'd always told him Trent was just a wild card, a family embarrassment, that he didn't even like military types. But there he was, drunk and grinning, whispering into her ear while Holden danced with her mother. She looked happy, happier than she had on their honeymoon. He turned off the TV, went upstairs. Renee was awake, scrolling her phone. "You sleep okay?" she asked, like nothing had ever happened. Holden nodded. "Yeah. You?" She smiled. "Best in a while." He stared at her. Not through her, at her. Like someone assessing a threat profile. "You want to take Lila to the zoo this weekend?" she asked. Holden forced a smile. "Actually, I was thinking we'd do something better." "Oh, I think it's time for a little family video project." She tilted her head, confused. "Home footage. Old stuff. Remember that wedding DVD?" Something flickered behind her eyes. Barely noticeable, but it was there. And Holden saw it. It was raining the night Holden found it, cold, slick wind tapping against the garage door like fingers. He'd been doing routine sweeps of the house. Not for safety, for intel. That night, it was Lila's toy bin that caught his eye. A corner of something black was poking out beneath stuffed animals and doll clothes. He pulled it out, an old lockbox. Not one of his. Inside, burner phone, disposable credit cards, cash, and printed documents. The phone was the jackpot. Holden plugged it into his laptop using an adapter, bypassed the pin in under 2 minutes. Muscle memory from SEAL missions kicked in. The messages were clear. So was the voice recording saved under last resort. He played it. Renee's voice. Calm. "I see. If he flips out, claim PTSD. Say he scared you. Say Lila was in the room. That's the fastest way to get custody." Holden stared at the screen, jaw clenched. There was more. A PDF titled Property Division Strategy. Trent's notes on Holden's military pension, the house value, even his VA disability rating. They planned it like a corporate acquisition. But what stopped him cold was the final file. A scanned document. Legal draft. Restraining order. Pre-filled template. Trent had written Holden's name in already. Holden didn't speak. Didn't breathe. He closed the file. Unplugged the phone. Tucked everything back into the lockbox. And placed it inside his safe, not hers. Renee had just made a mistake no one makes twice. She tried to weaponize the law against a man who studied warfare. And now, he wasn't just going to expose her. He was going to flip their entire plan into the biggest public collapse they'd never see coming. Holden sat in the back booth of a coffee shop 2 towns over, rain tapping the window beside him like clockwork. The man across from him, Danny Callan, wore a wrinkled dress shirt, stank of old cologne, and kept glancing at the door like someone might walk in. "You sure you want to know this much?" Danny asked, voice low. "Once you know it, you can't unknow it." Holden didn't blink. "Start talking." Danny scratched the back of his neck. "Trent's not just your wife's mistake, man. He's been running something bigger. Real estate fraud tied to a fake nonprofit for veterans. They use dead soldier identities to open dummy accounts. Feds are sniffing around already." Holden's jaw tightened. "And Renee?" Danny hesitated. "She's not in deep. But she's not innocent either. From what I saw, she knew about some of it. Helped shift a few transfers through her law firm's escrow accounts. Paper trail's fuzzy, but she's tied." Holden finished. Danny nodded slowly. Holden leaned forward. "What happens if those documents go public?" "They burn." "Trent's record?" "Gone." "Renee?" "She's looking at disbarment." "Worst case?" "Charges." Holden stood. Slipped an envelope onto the table. "For your time. Stay available." "Man," Danny sighed. "You're planning something big, aren't you?" Holden didn't answer. He just walked out, rain soaking through his hoodie, fists clenched inside his pockets. Back home, Renee was laughing in the kitchen with Lila, pancakes sizzling on the stove. Holden watched them from the hallway. Her voice. Her smile. The way she leaned down to kiss Lila's forehead like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't sketched out his downfall in a burner phone plan named Last Resort. She turned and caught his eye. "Coffee." He nodded. And smiled. But the smile didn't reach his eyes. "You know, I've been worried about you," Renee said, stirring her tea with too much care. You've been distant. Holden looked up from his laptop. Busy week. Busy with what? Thinking. Renee smiled. Controlled. You know, Monica mentioned a therapist. Someone who works with veterans. Might be helpful, considering what you've been through. Holden raised an eyebrow. Monica's suddenly a therapist now. No, but she cares. We all do. Holden leaned back in his chair. You think I need help? I think we should talk to someone. Together. There it was, the pivot. The soft nudge toward the narrative. Unstable vet, PTSD, erratic behavior. The prep work for custody theft. He played along. Fine, he said. Set it up. The smile she gave him didn't look victorious. It looked rehearsed. 3 days later, Holden sat across from Dr. Pierce in a cozy office filled with fake plants and bookshelf psychology. I understand your wife's concerned about changes in your mood, the doctor said, scribbling notes without looking up. She always was dramatic. She mentioned paranoid behavior, difficulty sleeping. Holden chuckled. Ever tried sleeping next to someone who lies for sport? The doctor paused. You feeling safe? No, Holden said, voice flat. But maybe she should. A beat. Excuse me. Holden smirked. It was a joke, Doc. The session continued with surface-level questions, all clearly angled toward checking boxes. Is he unstable? Violent? Detached? He answered calmly, steadily. At the end, Dr. Pierce said, Your wife wanted a joint session. We can schedule one if you're open. I'm very open, Holden said. That night, Renee greeted him at the door like a wife from a sitcom. How'd it go? Oh, enlightening, Holden said. We're going to do a session together. He's interested in hearing your side. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear? No, adjustment. She hadn't expected him to say yes. Good. Let her think he was falling into the trap, because while she built her case to take him down, he was already building his case to bury her. In a dim corner of Monica's living room, Renee sipped wine like it was her armor. He's calm now. Suspicious, maybe, but calm, she said. Monica tucked her legs beneath her. That's how they act before they snap. You need to get ahead of this. I am. I've got the joint session booked. If he says anything crazy in there, it's on record. Any word from Trent? He wants to move faster. Said we can't drag this out or Holden my lawyer up. Monica paused. You want me to speed things up with the custody lawyer? Yes, Renee said. Do it. Across the street, Holden sat in a borrowed SUV, recording the entire conversation through a directional mic. Every word came through clear in his earpiece. He didn't need to guess anymore. They were orchestrating his destruction, every piece of it. And they thought he was blind. He watched as Renee stood to leave, hugging Monica. Thanks for being here. It helps. I'm just glad I can do something, Monica said. Holden quietly clicked, stop recording. Back home, Renee was already in bed. He slipped under the covers beside her. She whispered, I'm proud of you. For going to therapy. He turned slightly, his face inches from hers. Anything for the family. Then he kissed her forehead, gently. Affectionate. Convincing. She exhaled like she believed it. Like he wasn't planning to destroy everything she'd built on lies. But in 72 hours, she'd find out just how much he really knew. And who else was going down with her. Holden spent the next morning at his small, locked storage unit on the edge of town. The walls smelled of dust and metal, but inside was a different world, camo duffels, encrypted drives, tools that hadn't seen daylight since his final deployment. He pulled out a binder labeled Logic Chains. Not military issue. His own creation. Each tab section contained different types of moves, surveillance, information control, pressure points, legal leverage. He opened to Target, Civilian Domestic. Page 1. Rule number 1, never strike emotionally. Strike strategically. By 9 a.m., he was at a small tech repair shop, handing the burner phone from Renee's lockbox to a guy named Theo. Mid-30s, scruffy, sharp. I need everything. Unrecoverable deletes. Metadata. Message logs. Recovered voice memos, Holden said. Theo grinned. This a cheating ex or a full-blown war? Holden didn't smile. Both. By 10:15, he drove past the law office where Renee worked, spotted her car. He parked a block away and walked toward the bank next door. Security camera above the bank faced the shared parking lot. Perfect. Inside the bank, he spoke to the manager, a friendly older man. I'm updating some personal business security protocols. Wondering if I could request street footage for reference. Holden handed over his own business card, McKinney Risk Assessment, veteran-owned. Manager nodded. I'll send what I can. It refreshes every 48 hours. That gave him a window. He walked out of the bank, sunlight cutting through the clouds as he looked back at Renee's office windows. She thought she was playing chess. She forgot he'd been trained to infiltrate countries, not homes. He wasn't just gathering evidence. He was mapping a battlefield, and everyone she trusted was already exposed. Renee noticed it first on a Tuesday. Holden stopped asking questions, stopped watching her with that heavy, unreadable look, stopped coming to bed late. He was pleasant, even-keeled, emotionless. That scared her more than yelling ever would have. Everything okay? She asked one night, pouring wine into 2 glasses. Sure, he said, not looking up from his laptop. She watched him from across the room. You've been quiet lately. I've just been thinking. About. He finally looked up. The future. Something in his tone made her pulse hitch. She handed him a glass. You're not still worried about us, are you? Holden smiled. Not worried at all. She didn't know how to respond to that. The next day, Monica called. He's too calm. Like, unnaturally calm. I know, Renee whispered. I think he suspects something. But he's not doing anything. Monica paused. That's exactly what scares me. Across the street, parked in a delivery van, Holden recorded the entire call. Every word. Later that night, Lila handed him a paper she wrote in school. My hero, my dad. Holden stared at it longer than he meant to. You okay? She asked, sitting beside him on the couch. He smiled at her. This time, it reached his eyes. Yeah, baby. I'm good. He folded the paper and slipped it into his back pocket. He wouldn't lose her. He wouldn't let Renee and Trent make her a pawn. Renee walked in and froze. Father and daughter on the couch, peaceful, solid. Like a wall she couldn't climb anymore. You two always so cozy now, she asked. Holden turned to her, calm as ice. Family's important, right? She tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway through. And that crack? He was going to split it wide open. Theo called back late that Friday. Man, you weren't kidding. This isn't just personal dirt. This is organized fraud. Holden was already driving. In Theo's back office, screens displayed decrypted data from Renee's burner phone. Offshore transactions, fake donation records, emails routed through shell domains. Theo whistled. Whoever Sparrow is, they're laundering dirty money through what looks like a fake veteran charity. Holden leaned in. Where's the money going? Theo pointed. Some ends up in real estate under a dummy corp, Shield Tree Holdings. Registered to your buddy Trent. And Renee. Theo scrolled. She signed off on 2 property closings. Under her firm's escrow accounts. That ties her in. Deep. Holden nodded slowly. Good. Theo hesitated. You sure you want to go this far? Holden's jaw flexed. They're using veterans to steal money. They're planning to take my daughter. And they thought they'd destroy me quietly. He looked Theo dead in the eye. I don't believe in quiet. On his way out, he placed a secure call to Detective Greaves. I've got enough to sink them both. Wire fraud, financial crimes, collusion. Might be bigger. Greaves whistled. How solid? Solid enough to get the feds interested. Holden paused. But I'm not handing it over yet. Why not? Because exposure isn't the endgame. Greaves caught the shift. Then what is? Holden looked out the window at the city lights. I want everyone who protected them to burn too. He hung up. And somewhere across town, Renee and Trent laughed over wine, still thinking this was just an affair. Still thinking they'd won. They didn't know they'd already lost. They didn't know their downfall had chapters left to go. Holden sat across from Ricky Penn, an accountant with a too-slick smile and a Bluetooth still in his ear, even though no one was calling. Ricky worked for a boutique finance firm that had handled some of Trent's businesses. He'd met Holden once at a fundraiser years ago, didn't remember him now. That worked in Holden's favor. I'm just doing research, Holden said, laying a manila folder on the cafe table. trying to understand how certain nonprofits move money. Ricky laughed. Buddy, that's a full-time job. Holden opened the folder. Inside, printouts of transactions linked to Shield Tree Holdings, side by side with the Veteran Charities books. Ricky's smirk faded. You recognize those? Holden asked. Ricky adjusted his collar. They're familiar. You filed them. I mean, I was the accountant, sure. But it's not like you vouched for tax-exempt status on a company that funneled donations into luxury condos. Ricky leaned back, jaw twitching. This sounds like a setup. No, Holden said calmly. It's a negotiation. Ricky narrowed his eyes. What do you want? You're going to hand over clean copies of all internal memos, emails, and adjusted ledgers you've seen come through Shield Tree. And anything Trent had you bury. Ricky looked nervous. And if I don't? Holden leaned forward. Then the IRS gets everything I've already got. And you go down with them. Silence. Then Ricky sighed. Give me 2 days. You've got one. As Holden stood, Ricky grabbed his wrist. Why are you doing this? Holden looked at him flatly. Because you helped them steal from veterans. And you almost helped them steal my daughter. Holden's war map was no longer just theory. It was evidence, timelines, assets, and people. All color-coded. All connected. He called it Operation Riptide, because once it started, it would pull everyone under. At 2 a.m., he sat alone in his office with all the lights off except for his desk lamp. A blank email open. Subject, Shield Tree Internal, Urgent Attachment, 23 pages of compiled financial misconduct, sent anonymously to the IRS whistleblower program. He didn't sign it. Didn't need to. By sunrise, Trent would be dealing with a quiet but deadly audit notice. Next, Holden pulled burner number 2. Greaves. Info dropped. Check your inbox. That's just level 1. He ended the call and moved on to the next task, the therapist. Dr. Pierce had submitted a session report to a private family psychologist, one Renee intended to bring in during custody proceedings. What she didn't know was, Holden had already contacted that psychologist and sent a copy of Pierce and Monica's friendship trail. Photos. Emails. A private forum post from 2 years ago where Monica wrote, "So proud of my bestie, finally getting licensed as a trauma therapist." Conflict of interest? Definitely. Admissible? Possibly. Devastating if it leaked early? Absolutely. Later that afternoon, Holden sat quietly in the park with Lila, eating sandwiches and watching ducks near the pond. Do you love Mom? She asked suddenly. Holden looked at her. I did. You don't anymore? He smiled gently. I still love you. More than anything. She nodded, satisfied with that. Holden wrapped his arm around her shoulders. He wasn't just burning bridges. He was building a path straight to freedom, with his daughter at his side. The joint therapy session was held in a warm, beige office with fake plants and strategically placed tissues. Dr. Pierce welcomed them both with a smile that Holden read like a script. Glad we could all meet today. Let's talk honestly. Holden let Renee go first. She leaned in, practiced concern etched into her voice. I'm worried. He's been distant and sometimes reactive. Not violent, but intense. Dr. Pierce nodded. Holden, how do you respond to that? Holden looked at both of them. Calm. Focused. Reactive, huh? Renee shifted. It's not an accusation. Feels like one, he said, tilting his head. I just want us to feel safe, she added. Holden chuckled once dry. Interesting word. Safe. Safe from what exactly? Dr. Pierce stepped in. This is a safe space, Holden. No, it's a boxed-in space, he replied, where one of us is playing chess and the other's being watched. Renee narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? Holden leaned forward slightly. I know about the burner phone, the escrow transfers. Trent, the documents in your lockbox, the drafted restraining order. Dr. Pierce blinked. Renee's face drained of color. What? I played the voice memo too, he added softly. The one where you suggest using PTSD as leverage. She stood suddenly. You set this up. Holden turned to the therapist. You work with Monica. That's a conflict of interest. But don't worry, the court will know soon. Dr. Pierce looked down, realizing how badly the session had just turned. Holden stood calmly. Thanks for the tea. And then he walked out, slow, steady, in control. For the first time, Renee realized this wasn't therapy. It was checkmate. The waiting area outside Judge Rothman's chambers was sterile, bland chairs, buzzed lighting, the faint scent of old coffee and printer ink. Holden sat in his dark blazer, calm, unreadable. Across from him, Renee flipped through her phone, trying to look disinterested. But her foot tapped too fast. When the clerk called them in, Holden stood first. Inside, Judge Rothman glanced over his glasses at the files both parties had submitted. Custody discussion. Preliminary motion. Routine. Until Holden slid over a slim folder marked supplemental evidence. Conflict of counsel. Your Honor, he began, voice cool, steady. Before we begin, I want to disclose something I believe directly impacts this process. Renee shot him a glance. Her attorney, freshly hired after Monica's recommendation, frowned slightly. The judge opened the folder. Inside, a series of screenshots, emails, and a photo of Renee's attorney attending a weekend barbecue with Trent, Monica, and Dr. Pierce. The judge's brow lifted. Are you alleging collusion, Mr. McKinney? I'm stating a conflict of interest, Holden replied. My wife's legal team, therapist, and outside consultant have long-standing personal relationships, some tied to an ongoing financial investigation. Silence. Renee's attorney shifted in his seat. Your Honor, that's sit down, Judge Rothman said, flipping another page. This therapist submitted a report to this court based on private sessions not disclosed to both parties. That's an ethical violation. Renee opened her mouth to speak. The judge raised a hand. You may want to find new counsel, Mrs. McKinney. Outside the courtroom, Holden didn't gloat. He didn't speak. He walked right past Renee and out the doors. This wasn't a win. It was the first domino. Sunday morning at St. Miriam's was always the same. Pews filled with familiar faces. Renee dressed in her finest, subtle gold jewelry, warm pink lipstick, soft waves in her hair. Picture-perfect suburban wife. She smiled at the pastor, waved at the choir. But as she made her way to her usual seat, she noticed it. The glances. Whispered exchanges between women she'd known for years. One of them, Jenna, the PDA treasurer, didn't smile back this time. After service, during the potluck, it hit her in full. Small cluster conversations stopped when she walked by. Monica approached, panicked. Something's wrong. Renee forced a laugh. What do you mean? Someone leaked something. About you. And Trent. Renee froze. What? Monica pulled out her phone, opened the Community Watch Facebook group. Pinned post at the top. What kind of person steals from veterans, lies to her husband, and then smiles in church? Below it, screenshots. Not all of them, but enough. A message from Trent to Renee. Don't worry. He's too passive to fight back. Just keep gaslighting him till the papers are ready. Another image, a donation receipt from the fake charity. Her signature. Renee's heart slammed against her ribs. Who posted this? She whispered. No one knows, Monica said. It was anonymous. But it's going viral. It's already on the school moms group. Across the room, the pastor's wife looked at Renee. Not with judgment, with disappointment. Renee grabbed her purse and left without a word. She called Trent from her car. We have a problem. But Holden was already 3 moves ahead. And the court of public opinion? It was brutal. Trent's apartment was dark when Renee arrived, panic in her voice. Someone leaked the messages. Trent didn't answer immediately. He was busy pacing, phone in hand, staring at an email from one of his business partners, an investor pulling out. I've got bigger problems, he muttered. Renee grabbed his arm. Everyone saw it. Jenna, Megan, even the pastor's wife. They all know. So? They'll get over it. No, they won't. My reputation is dead, Trent. He turned on her. You think mine isn't? I've got feds sniffing around, clients ghosting me. What? She blinked. He threw his phone on the couch. You didn't tell me Holden had connections in the system. I didn't know, she shouted back. You said he was weak. That he'd roll over. Well, he didn't, Trent said, pacing again. And now I'm hemorrhaging accounts. Do you have any idea what that means? Then came the knock. 3 knocks. Sharp. Calculated. Renee peeked through the peephole. A woman, maybe mid-30s, dark lipstick, expensive coat. She opened the door. The woman smiled. You must be Renee. Who are you? Trent's girlfriend, she said calmly. Well, as of about 10 minutes ago. Renee's blood went cold. Trent stepped up behind her. Lexi, don't. Lexi looked at him, disgusted. 2 phones. 3 women. 1 fake foundation. I'd say I dodged a bullet. She turned to Renee. Just so you know, I found the 2nd phone in your name. It's going to the feds. Then she left. Silence. Renee turned to Trent. What phone? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. She realized then, the man she threw her marriage away for was throwing her under the bus to save himself. And Holden? He wasn't just destroying their plan. He was making them destroy each other. Holden stood across from a quiet civil clerk in the county records office, a stack of notarized documents in hand and a folder marked McKinney, Protected Benefits in red ink. I need to file a beneficiary protection claim, he said calmly. Military pension, disability, and survivor benefits. Emergency motion. The clerk flipped through the papers, eyebrows raised. You're locking her out completely? Holden's jaw tightened. She never earned a penny of it. The forms were airtight, backed by a clause written into his original retirement agreement, rarely used, but applicable when evidence of fraud or intent to manipulate financial assets existed. And he had more than enough proof. By mid-afternoon, Renee received the first email, then the second. Her law firm's payroll system flagged a pension freeze. She stormed into her manager's office. There's a block on my joint filing rights. My name's removed from the benefit roster, she said, voice cracking. Her manager, a woman named Patrice, looked uncomfortable. We also received a formal complaint from Holden, with documentation. Renee stared. What complaint? That your escrow work crossed ethical lines tied to a fraudulent charity. Patrice looked pained but firm. We're opening an internal review. Renee's hands curled into fists. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She walked straight to the restroom, locked the stall, and sat on the closed toilet lid. No pension. No legal advantage. No firm support. And worst of all, no idea how he got it all without her even noticing. The email hit every inbox in the school district and town government by 9:03 a.m. Subject line. When PDA leaders become parasites, read before you trust. Attached, a PDF. Page 1, Renee's smiling headshot. Page 2, the charity ledger signed under her name. Page 3, screenshots of her texts with Trent discussing manipulation, court strategy, and using PTSD as a weapon. Holden hadn't sent it. He made sure someone else did. A burner email routed through a Wi-Fi cafe in another state. He left no fingerprints. By lunch, a tweet with the PDF hit 20,000 shares. Hashtag fake charity mom trended for 2 hours. Outside the school, Renee was ambushed by a local news van. Mrs. McKinney, do you want to comment on the stolen veteran funds or the custody strategy you described in leaked texts? She froze. Flashbulbs. Microphones. Stares from parents she used to host brunch with. She got in her car, hands trembling, slammed the door, and drove. At home, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers. Blocked calls. Trent didn't answer. Monica texted once. It's bad. You need to disappear. But Renee had nowhere left to disappear to. Holden watched from his car down the street, shades on, engine off. His phone buzzed, a short message from Greaves. You're not just making them fall. You're making them rot. Holden stared at the windshield, unmoving. Not yet, he muttered. But it's coming. The silence between Renee and Trent could have filled a stadium. They sat on opposite sides of his apartment, tension like smoke between them. A silent war of blames and buried secrets. He's playing us, Trent finally said. You realize that, right? He's setting you up to take the fall. Renee scoffed. Me? You dragged me into Shieldtree. You said it was clean. I said it was contained, Trent hissed. You're the one who used firm resources to float transactions. I told you to use cash. And you were sleeping with someone else, she snapped. He laughed bitterly. Look who's suddenly a saint. Renee stood. You think I'm going down alone? I'll burn everything. Trent stood too, voice cold. You already did. He walked past her toward the bedroom, closed the door behind him. That night, Renee scrolled through photos on her phone. Her and Holden in better days, Lila at the beach, holidays they faked for the camera. She stared at one picture for too long. Holden and Lila carving pumpkins. She was off frame, not even in it. She hadn't noticed that before. Now it hit like glass in her chest. Outside, across the street, Holden stood in the dark, just far enough to stay hidden. He saw the light flick off in her apartment window. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. This wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. It was justice. Slow, clean, inevitable. Holden stood in the shadows of his garage, the soft hum of the desk fan slicing through the silence. In front of him, 3 hard drives, a labeled envelope, and a black duffel bag zipped halfway open. Inside was a high-end camcorder, purchased secondhand 6 months ago. He connected one of the drives to his laptop. On screen, video clips. Dozens. Each named, time-stamped, cataloged. One from the therapy session. Another from the church parking lot. Trent's voice, Renee's confession, Monica's advice, all caught on discrete audio devices hidden in innocuous places. Under chairs, inside vents, behind outlet covers. He had them all. But the real weapon? A single video stitched together like a documentary, voiceovers, timelines, receipts, screenshots. It told the whole story. Betrayal, fraud, manipulation, greed. And he hadn't made it for the courts. He'd made it for the world. At 2 a.m., Holden uploaded the file anonymously to a YouTube channel with no name, no subscriber count, no trace. Then he clicked send on 5 burner email accounts, addresses from tip lines, local newsrooms, Reddit mods, and a few high-profile veteran communities. He didn't say a word. Just dropped a link with one sentence. This is what betrayal looks like when it's weaponized. By morning, it had 218 views. By noon, over 3,000. By 6 p.m., it was trending on Veterans United, picked up by a journalist who'd once interviewed Holden years ago. He didn't watch the comments. He didn't care for the noise. Because this wasn't just a story anymore. It was proof. And as for Renee, she had no idea the whole country was about to see exactly what she'd done and what she tried to destroy. Renee walked into work to find a plain white envelope sitting on her desk. Inside, a letter from the IRS. Subject line, Notice of Audit, Escrow Activity Under Review. She stared at the words like they were in another language. The rest of the office faded to static. People passed by. Phones rang. None of it registered. Her stomach dropped. She turned to Patrice's office and knocked. You knew about this? Patrice didn't even look up. We received our copy this morning. You've been placed on administrative leave. Effective immediately. What? You'll need to return your key card and email access credentials by 5 p.m. Are you serious? Patrice finally looked at her, not with anger, but a cold, sterile detachment. There's too much smoke, Renee. We can't let it burn the whole house. Renee backed out of the room, her face pale. When she got to her car, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Renee McKinney? Who is this? Agent Brewer, Department of Veterans Affairs, Office of Inspector General. You've been named in an investigation regarding fraudulent veteran relief funds. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Renee's world spun. I didn't. We'll schedule something formal, the agent continued. But in the meantime, do not delete any digital records. It will be considered obstruction. Click. Her phone slipped from her fingers onto the passenger seat. Back at home, she collapsed onto the couch, turned on the TV, and there it was, her face, on a local broadcast, overlaid with the headline, PDA Mom, Real Estate Exec Implicated in Fraud, Abuse, and Family Court Manipulation. Holden hadn't just exposed her. He'd buried her quietly, completely, and publicly. And it wasn't even over. Renee had barely slept when the doorbell rang. A man in a dark suit stood on the porch. Mrs. McKinney? She nodded, her voice gone. You've been served. He handed her a stack of papers, then walked away. She sat on the floor, flipping through them with trembling hands. Divorce papers, but not normal. It wasn't just adultery. Holden had cited constructive fraud, attempted emotional sabotage, intentional emotional distress, and petitioned for full custody based on evidence of mental manipulation and unsafe conduct. Every paragraph read like a death sentence to her reputation. Each claim backed with exhibits, photos, audio clips, transcripts, witness declarations. Sierra, the school principal, even Jenna from the PDA. Her phone buzzed. "Monica, this is bigger than us. You need a real lawyer now. And fast." But no one wanted the case. 2 firms had already rejected her by the time she called. Holden, meanwhile, sat in his truck watching Lila walk out of school, smiling, laughing with her friends. She spotted him and waved, running over. "Dad, guess what? I got picked for the science fair." He smiled. "That's amazing. Proud of you." They drove home together, music low, windows cracked just enough to let the breeze in. Inside, the house was calm, safe. Holden set her backpack down and walked to the kitchen. He didn't feel like a man who'd just destroyed someone. He felt like a man who'd survived. And the next time he walked into court, he'd walk in not as the man accused, but as the man who proved he was never the threat. Trent's condo was chaos. Papers everywhere. Multiple phones buzzing like wasps. The world that once admired him was circling like sharks. He paced barefoot across his kitchen floor as Lexi's voice echoed from the TV behind him. Shield Tree Holdings claimed to help disabled veterans. But a new video shows otherwise. His face appeared on-screen, laughing at a fundraising gala. Below it, B-roll of government forms, a receipt with Renee's signature, a condo lease tied to his LLC. The doorbell rang. Outside, a camera crew and a reporter with a mic already in hand. "Mr. Blake, do you want to respond to the viral video linking you to charity fraud and stolen valor?" Trent shut the door, locked it, and yanked the curtain closed. His phone rang again. His lawyer. "Finally. You told me this was low risk," Trent hissed. "I told you if it ever surfaced, you were screwed," the lawyer snapped. "You need to pull your accounts now. Shield Tree is getting subpoenaed. The VA's OIG just flagged all your financials. It's bad." Trent's hands were shaking. "Fix it." "I can't." A pause. The lawyer's voice softened. "Who is this guy, anyway? The ex-husband? What is he, CIA?" "No," Trent muttered, staring out the window at the flashing camera light across the street. "He's worse." Dr. Pierce tried to keep her voice level as she addressed the ethics committee. "I was acting in the best interest of both parties." Across the room, Greaves handed over a thin laptop, sliding it across the table. "Play the clip," he said. On screen, Pierce's voice during therapy. "Just steer the conversation away from facts. He'll stumble. If he raises his voice, it's documented." Committee members stared, unmoving. "This wasn't a mental health session," Greaves said coldly. "This was prep work for legal manipulation." Pierce swallowed hard. They didn't speak, just wrote. Later that day, a suspension order was filed. License frozen. Practice closed. Across town, Holden received a short text. "She's out. Monica's under review too." He simply nodded to himself and slipped the phone into his pocket. At dinner, Lila talked about school projects while Holden grilled chicken outside. The air smelled like firewood in summer. She smiled at him. "I'm glad you're happy now." He looked over at her, surprised. "Why do you say that?" "You're not quiet anymore," she said. "Your eyes don't look sad." He bent down to eye level. "Thanks to you," he said softly. "You told me the truth." That was brave. She hugged him tight. And behind them, the flames in the grill hissed gently, like the final crackle before collapse. Monica tried to lay low, but the fallout reached her fast. First, her clinic received an anonymous complaint. Then screenshots. Then patient cancellations. But the worst came from her own husband. He stood in the living room, arms crossed, the printed text in his hand. "You helped her fake mental health claims against a veteran?" "Seriously. I wasn't helping. I was just—" "You were plotting with a cheating wife to frame her husband for court," he snapped. Her voice cracked. "It's not what it looks like." He tossed the papers onto the floor. "You're not who I thought you were." "Don't say that," she begged. "Please." He grabbed his keys. I'm staying at my brother's. The door slammed behind him. Monica sank to the floor, shaking. Across the neighborhood, Holden's computer pinged with a new update from his web alert. A blog post titled, Therapist, PTA Chair, and Financial Advisor, the Suburban Triangle of Collusion had just gone viral. The names were real. The receipts were attached. And Monica's face was front and center. He didn't smile. But he allowed himself one word. Good. The courtroom was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that buzzes in your ears. Renee sat stiff, her new lawyer tense beside her. The former one had dropped her after the conflict exposure. Her hair was pinned, her makeup sharp, but nothing could mask the panic just behind her eyes. Holden walked in slowly, dressed in charcoal gray, Lila's hand in his. When he reached their table, he knelt to her. You okay? He asked gently. Lila nodded. I'm not scared anymore. He kissed her forehead. Renee watched from across the room, lips pressed tight. The judge entered. Let's begin. Holden's lawyer stood. Calm. Precise. Your Honor, we are submitting into record audio and digital communications that directly demonstrate coercion, manipulation, and an attempt to weaponize PTSD to gain custody. The first clip played. Renee's voice. If he gets loud in court, we push the trauma angle. We can win this. Gasps scattered across the room. Renee's lawyer whispered harshly in her ear. She didn't respond. Holden never looked at her. He stared straight ahead. The judge leaned forward. This isn't a typical case. This is a deliberate abuse of family law systems. Ms. McKinney, I'm suspending your custodial rights until further review. If you object, you can file for an appeal. But as of now, he banged the gavel. Full custody awarded to Mr. McKinney. Lila squeezed Holden's hand tighter. He exhaled for the first time in hours. Renee sat frozen. It wasn't just about losing custody. It was about everyone seeing why. The cafe was quiet. Early morning, mellow jazz on the speakers. Trent sat at the corner table, eyes darting over his phone. His legal rep was ghosting him. Half his accounts were frozen. Shieldtree's site was down, replaced with a federal banner. Then came the sound, shoes on tile. For agents. Calm. Direct. Trent Blake. He didn't even run. They cuffed him where he sat, next to a cold espresso and a now worthless laptop bag. Under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, misappropriation of federal funds, and obstruction of justice, one agent said. A few patrons pulled out phones. One woman whispered, "Isn't that the guy from the video?" As they escorted him out, his phone buzzed on the table. An email from Holden. No text. Just a video attachment. Trent watched from the cruiser. The screen showed a looping image, a slow zoom on the words he once texted Renee. He's too passive to fight back. Holden's voice came over it. You mistook silence for surrender. Now it's your turn to be erased. Trent stared at the screen. It didn't blink. But he did. Hard. Holden walked into the local media studio with a small black flash drive in his jacket. The receptionist smiled. You're the guy from the veteran case, right? I'm the guy who wants the truth documented. He handed the drive to the editor on shift. Inside, a full-length, timestamp breakdown of Shieldtree's fraud, Renee's court strategy, Pierce's license suspension, Monica's disbarment request, and Trent's arrest footage, all backed with real evidence. This isn't just a scandal, the editor said, scanning files. This is a storm. Holden nodded. Then let it rain. By nightfall, the piece ran as a special report on 3 regional stations. The Veteran, the Betrayal, and the Collapse aired at 8 p.m. Clips cut between wedding videos and court records. Laughing PDA photos dissolved into mugshots and fraud audits. Holden watched it from home. Not proud. Not vindictive. Just relieved. Lila sat beside him, quiet. He turned to her. Are you okay watching this? She nodded. They should know. He placed his hand gently over hers. The fire wasn't over, but it had a name now. And for the first time, it wasn't his. The next morning, Renee opened her front door to a flyer taped across it. #ShieldTreeScam, Justice for Veterans. She ripped it down, but the damage had already spread. Everywhere she went, she saw it. A woman in the grocery store whispered behind her hand. Two teenagers took photos of her license plate. Even her dry cleaner offered her receipt with shaking hands. She tried to stay composed, lips tight, eyes forward, but the mask cracked in the parking lot. She sat in her car and sobbed. Not for the marriage, not even for Trent, but because she had nothing left to blame. It wasn't someone else's fault anymore. People weren't scared of Holden. They respected him. And now, she was just a cautionary tale in a story told by strangers on screens. The same silence she once used against him now haunted her. Holden waited just outside the school doors, his jacket zipped halfway, coffee cooling in his hand. Kids streamed out in waves, loud and full of after-school energy. Then he saw her, Lila, backpack bouncing, ponytail swinging. She spotted him and smiled. Every time she did that, something inside him relit. Guess what? She beamed, climbing into the truck. I got an A on my science project. Miss Carter said my board was clear and powerful, just like you always say. Holden grinned. Clear and powerful, huh? That's my girl. The drive home was peaceful. No tension. No false cheer. Just music low in the background and her legs kicking back and forth to the rhythm. At home, she sprawled on the couch with her sketchbook while Holden prepared dinner. Halfway through chopping onions, she spoke without looking up. Do I have to see her again? Holden froze. Lila met his eyes. Mom, I know she wants visits. He wiped his hands on a towel and sat beside her. You don't have to do anything that makes you feel unsafe. We're confused. That's the rule. But will it make you mad if I don't? No, he said softly. It'll make me proud. Because it means you know what you need. She leaned into his side. He put his arm around her, holding her there for a moment longer than he used to. And outside, the autumn wind rattled the window gently, but it couldn't shake the house they'd rebuilt. The knock on Holden's door wasn't loud, just steady. He opened it slowly, expecting mail. Instead, it was her. Renee. No makeup. Windblown hair. Paper envelope in her hand. I'm not here to fight, she said. I needed to see you. Holden stepped outside, closing the door behind him. You shouldn't be here. I know, she whispered. She held out the envelope. He didn't take it. What is it? A letter. For Lila. If she ever wants to read it. She asked not to see you, Holden said plainly. Renee nodded, eyes filling. I deserve that. Silence stretched between them. I saw the footage, she added. The edit. The voiceover. Wasn't for you. I know. But it still felt like everything I said came back to crush me. You crushed yourself, he replied. I just made sure no one could lie about it. She didn't argue. Just looked down at the porch step. Do you ever think about when we were good? She asked. Holden paused. No, he said. She blinked. I think about what I almost let you take from me. Then he turned, opened the door halfway, and looked back once. Take your letter to the lawyer. If she asks for it one day, maybe I'll hand it to her. If not, it dies in a drawer. She nodded, and he closed the door. This time, it felt permanent. It was quiet now. Too quiet for most people, maybe, but not for Holden. The photos were down. The boxes were sealed. Only essentials remained. He walked through the halls of the old house slowly, like a soldier clearing one last room before heading home. The kitchen, where they'd hosted birthday parties. The hallway, where Lila's growth marks were still penciled on the trim. The bedroom, once warm, now stripped of everything soft. He sat on the edge of the bed, the same spot where he'd once learned the truth, where she had lied, and he had pretended to sleep. He placed one item on the nightstand, a folded drawing Lila made years ago. Stick figures holding hands. A sun with sunglasses in the corner. Only two figures remain now, him and her. He locked the door on his way out, the keys jingling in his hand. At the curb, the moving truck waited. He handed the driver a folded paper. Destinations on there. Then he climbed into his own vehicle, rolled the windows down halfway, and pulled away. The rearview mirror showed the house one last time. It looked smaller than he remembered. And finally, it didn't feel like his anymore. Holden sat across from the reporter, a woman named Dana Cho. Mid-30s. Sharp eyes. No nonsense. She clicked on the recorder. You sure you want to talk now? You've stayed quiet through all this. He nodded. I'm not here to get sympathy. I just want the record to outlive the noise. Dana leaned in. What was the hardest part? Holden didn't blink, convincing myself that being calm didn't mean being weak. And the moment it changed, he paused, then smiled slightly. My daughter said, "Mom kisses Uncle Trent when you're gone." That was it. No rage. No outburst. Just clarity. Dana nodded slowly. Do you think this could happen to others? It already is, he said. That's why I'm launching a legal fund. For veterans getting blindsided, not by bullets. By betrayal. Dana sat back, impressed. Do you want your name attached to this? Holden looked down for a beat. Then up. Yes. She smiled. Then let's make sure the world knows exactly who made this happen. Holden stood, shook her hand, and walked out of the studio as the cameras powered down. For the first time in a long time, there was nothing left to hide from. The small conference room smelled like new paint and fresh hope. Holden stood at the front, beside a modest banner. McKinney Legacy Fund. Protection. Awareness. Justice. Rows of chairs held veterans in plain clothes, young fathers, a few wives, and 2 teen boys holding paperwork in their laps. Most people think betrayal only happens overseas, Holden began. But for a lot of us, it comes from closer than we ever expected. He glanced at the slideshow behind him. Court files, messages, redacted names, proof that the system could be used, and now, protected against. This fund isn't about revenge, he continued. It's about defending those who were told to stay silent. A few heads nodded. One woman wiped her eye. After the session, a man approached. Heavy set, tattoos on his forearms. I thought I was alone, he said. My ex tried to use my PTSD records to take my kid. Almost worked. Holden nodded. That's why this exists. Not everyone gets a second chance. We're going to make sure they do. Outside, Lila waited near the car, flipping through a school notebook. How'd it go? She asked as he walked up. He smiled. It's just getting started. She handed him the notebook. Inside, a sketch. Him. Her. Standing on a podium with a small flag behind them. Above it, she'd written, Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they wear court shoes. In a dim office filled with half-unpacked boxes, a young associate at the State Bar Review Committee skimmed through files with a red marker in hand. 2 names came up repeatedly. Monica Jameson, therapist, pending ethics violation. Dr. Adrian Pierce, license revoked. Renee McKinney, under investigation for misuse of professional resources and collusion with non-licensed advisors. The associate circled the final note in bold. All parties were interconnected. Evidence supports coordinated manipulation of custody and veteran benefits. Down the hallway, a supervisor added her initials next to a memo. Recommend full bar disqualification, permanent. Back in her apartment, Renee sat by the window watching traffic pass. Her inbox was empty. Her LinkedIn deactivated. No return calls. No offers. Just silence. The paper trail she once used like a weapon had become the very rope tightening around her future. She stood, pulled open a drawer. Inside, business cards, printed resumes, old PDA letters of recommendation. She swept them all into the trash. For once, there was no one left to impress. Lila stood in front of the full-length mirror in her new room. The sunlight hit different here, softer, warmer. The windows weren't tinted. Nothing felt hidden. She pulled on the hoodie her dad had bought, simple navy blue with McKinney Strong stitched across the chest. Then she smiled. Not because she had to. Because she wanted to. Holden knocked gently on the door. You ready? Almost. He stepped inside, pausing behind her. They both looked at the mirror together. You look like your mom, he said. Lila frowned. He touched her shoulder. The good parts. Before she forgot who she was. Lila nodded, quiet. But you've got my fire, he added. And that's what kept us standing. She turned to him, smiling. I'm going to talk about it at school. My story. I think it might help some of the kids who feel weird about their parents. You sure? Yeah, she said. Because I'm not ashamed of where I came from. Holden crouched to her eye level. Then you walk in there with your head up. Got it. Got it. She walked out the door first. This time, she led the way. The park was quiet. Holden sat on the wooden bench facing the lake, sun bleeding down into the waterline, casting streaks of orange and purple across the sky. He lit a cigar, not for celebration, not for habit. Just tradition. Something about the ritual helped settle the air. A man approached slowly, dressed in a sheriff's jacket. "Greaves. You still come here, huh?" he said. Holden nodded. Always liked watching things in quietly. Greaves sat beside him. "She's done, you know," he said. "Renee. Bar stripped. No criminal charges yet, but her name's radioactive." Holden nodded again. "What about Trent?" "In federal holding. Probably 10 to 15 if it sticks." Silence passed between them. "You regret anything?" Greaves finally asked. Holden exhaled slow. "No." Another pause. "You think she ever loved you?" Greaves asked. Holden watched the water for a long beat. "I think she loved what I could protect her from, but never what I was." Greaves stood, patting his shoulder. "Well, seems like you figured out what you are." As the sheriff walked off, Holden stayed. The cigar burned slow in his fingers, and the lake glowed calm, not because the storm never came, but because it finally passed. The courthouse was quieter this time. No reporters, no protests, just the quiet grind of legal aftermath. Holden sat at the back of the courtroom gallery, not as a plaintiff, not even as a witness. He was just watching this time. Renee sat at the defense table alone. No attorney, no clipboard, just a woman in a charcoal gray suit that looked a little too big for her now. Her hair pulled back like she was still trying to project control. The judge entered, flipping through the thick file in front of him. Case 214B, Bar Ethics Committee versus Renee McKinney. She stood, shoulders stiff. The prosecutor summarized the findings quickly. Misuse of client resources. Perjury by omission. Pattern of coercive conduct in a domestic setting. Holden watched her hands, twitching at her sides, fingers curling into each other. This court finds Ms. McKinney in violation of the state bar's ethical standards and permanently revokes her license to practice law. A final blow, but not loud. Just surgical. The gavel didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like the soft closing of a casket. Renee didn't cry, but her eyes didn't rise either. Holden stood and walked out before she could see him. There was nothing more he needed to hear. She didn't lose because he hated her. She lost because she bet everything on him breaking. And he didn't. The call came at 9:47 p.m., unknown number, one ring longer than usual. Holden almost ignored it. But something made him answer. He didn't speak first. Renee's voice came through the line, brittle. "I know I'm not supposed to call. I needed to say one thing." He waited. "I deserved to lose," she said quietly. "I used to think I was the victim, but I see now. I was the storm." Silence. "Then, you were never going to break, were you?" Holden exhaled. Slow. "Not when she needed me." Renee didn't ask who. She knew. "I'm leaving town," she said. "There's nothing left for me here." Still, Holden didn't reply. "I wanted to say goodbye," she added. "Not to win. Not to come back. Just goodbye." He paused, and then simply said, "Goodbye, Renee." Click. No drama. No threat. No spin. Just silence. And for the first time in months, it felt like peace. The attic smelled like old wood and insulation dust, the late afternoon light catching flecks of memory in the air. Lila was crouched by a box marked "Mom, Keep" in thick black marker. Holden peeked in, expecting her to be upset. But she wasn't. She held a stack of old cards, some birthday notes, old letters, and a baby blanket still neatly folded. "She used to write a lot," Lila said. Holden crouched beside her. "She used to dream a lot, too." Lila looked up. "You think she meant any of it?" He thought for a moment. "I think she wanted to. But wanting and doing aren't the same thing." Lila nodded, thumbing through one card with a heart drawn in crayon. "Can I keep a few?" "Of course." She placed 3 cards in her backpack. The rest she sealed back in the box and slid into the far corner. Then she turned. "I want to stop carrying it all," she said. "I'm tired of dragging ghosts around." Holden smiled. "You're allowed to move forward." They walked downstairs together. That night, she taped one card to her bedroom mirror. The words were faded but still legible. "Love means protecting each other. No matter what." She didn't keep it because she believed it came true. She kept it because she knew now her dad was the one who lived it. The courtroom was half full this time. No press, no whispers, just a few case managers, a family liaison, and the new judge, young, fair, and focused. Holden sat calmly with Lila beside him. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair braided, a bracelet he'd bought her the day they finalized custody on her wrist. On the other side, a court-appointed advocate spoke quietly to the judge. No Renee. Just paperwork. Just silence. This wasn't a battle anymore. It was closure. The judge reviewed the file carefully. All recommendations are in. Full custody remains with Mr. Holden McKinney. Visitation to be determined at the minor's request upon reaching age 18. Case concluded. No gavel. Just a final signature. Holden turned to Lila. You okay? She nodded. I think I'm ready to stop being scared now. Outside the courtroom, they didn't rush. They just walked, side by side, no need for words. They passed a bulletin board with flyers pinned to it. One read, Need help? Legacy Fund is here. Holden smiled. This time, he was the safety net. The new home wasn't big, but it had a wide porch, sunlit windows, and walls painted soft yellow, Lila's pick. There were no locks on the bedroom doors. No secrets behind cabinets. No hidden phones or strange silences. Just peace. Holden worked from the small office in back, consulting for veteran advocacy and custody law reform. Quiet. Focused. Honest. Lila painted in the sunroom. Music played softly. Real laughter echoed now. Not the forced kind. One afternoon, she asked, Do you think we'll ever talk to her again? Holden looked up from his laptop. Maybe one day, but on your terms. When you're strong enough not to be broken by her anymore. Lila nodded. I think that'll be sooner than she expects. Outside, the wind shifted the trees. Inside, Holden sipped his coffee and stared at the photo on his desk, just the two of them, framed in sunlight, a quiet victory hanging in between their smiles. No parade, no applause, but real peace. And that was louder than anything else ever had been. The beach was quiet this time of year, gray sky above, cool waves brushing the shore. Holden and Lila walked along the waterline, shoes in hand. She tossed a stone into the sea. Do you ever miss the way it was? He thought about it. Not the way it was, but the way it should have been. She nodded, watching the ripples. You think I'll be okay? She asked. He turned to her. You already are. She smiled softly. Ahead, the wind picked up. They walked forward together, step by step, not looking back. Not anymore. Just a father and daughter who survived hell and built something better from the ashes. And now one final question for you all. What would you do if someone tried to destroy everything you loved and thought you wouldn't fight back? Tell us in the comments and let us know where in the world you're watching from. We see you. We hear you. If this story gripped you, hit that like button like Holden hit back. Subscribe for more unforgettable thrillers, bold revenge sagas, and true stories of karma that never misses. Until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of your peace. See you in the next epic revenge story.